Good afternoon. Welcome to the Pasquale Project. I'm your host, Zeb Pasquale. Episode 11. Should I wait until I am ready? You might think that your idea, your product, your service, or whatever you offer isn't big enough, or that you're not experienced enough. So therefore, you should wait to create your online profile, build a website, or put yourself out as your new brand. But if you know you can help others, what are you waiting for? That passage was written by a friend of mine on her book that she gave me, which was a signed copy, which I'm super happy about. My next guest is different and unique from my other guests in that I have not known her for lots of years and have not gone through lots of crazy stuff together. I've just met her several months ago, but I was very impressed with not just her athletic ability, but the fact that she has a successful entrepreneurial track record and a new baby, which is super cool. So she has a family as well, and I have a lot of female friends and listeners who have asked me in my own entrepreneurial endeavors, like, Zeb, do you know, are there any females that you know who are crushing it entrepreneurially as well as managing a family life? And I actually tried Googling some people and to very little success. And I did notice that probably the bulk of my beginning episodes were all male. I did those so not on purpose because there's like 3 females that were on the list that were supposed to happen in February and then happen in March. And that's just the nature of being a successful, busy person. But finally, after several tries, I'm able to sit down with her, and I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to dig into it. And I want to give with the default intro first, exploring the importance and nature of physical vitality and longevity, entrepreneurship and economic freedom, influence, command and leadership, and all the shenanigans in between. The Pasquale Project represents equal parts acknowledgement of and campaign towards the unprecedented opportunity we currently have to share our message and passions with the world via the internets, of which my podcast and YouTube channel are only components, along with my Instagram and Facebook profiles. It's my honor to welcome Julie Broad.
Hey.
Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I just recently learned like 2 minutes ago that Julie despises long, intricate sentences.
Big words.
Yes.
I mean, really, there's no need to use gigantic words when ones that are smaller and more interesting will suffice. But
I totally can't argue with that at all. I literally can't argue with it. Not even a little bit. So first of all, Julie is from Canada, mm-hmm. and she's been doing CrossFit for several years. So when she came to the gym to Spry, the actual first thing I noticed when Troy was it Troy? Troy's your guy,
yep,
right? Yeah,
yep.
Who was training you was full squat snatch, and I was super impressed because I think you're doing your test, and it turns out that that's like one of her least favorite things. Overhead squat and squat snatch. Yeah.
And
then, but see, it turned out I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive. It takes years to get good at it, and then as I got to know her better, it turned out to be one of her like most despised things. So, but I think there was this one session where it was just me and you, and we had a really good talk, and I really appreciated it. She heard me out, I heard her out. She's a successful author, and it turns out, and I don't want to slaughter your vocation, but she told me that she helps people launch and market books that they've written, and that's something that I've been working with my doctor on, that we'd like to get launched this year. So I talked to her about that as well. But once I started podcasting, and once I realized how much I enjoyed this, and how valuable it was, and the people who actually listen to it, who actually inform me that they find such great value in it, I couldn't help but want to do this, with you. So before we get started, could you just give us a quick background on like where you're from and how you got here? Essentially everything you told me during our one-on-one.
I always love quick background because it's like, well, I'm 41, so
yeah.
There's quite a few years in there.
Okay.
But no,
milestone-based
I can hit the highlights. So I'm Canadian. I moved to LA in May of 2017, so we're not even here a year yet. and had my first child just after I turned 40. So
Awesome.
Because I was busy, that's the good news.
Sure.
Hey? When you're building businesses, I was too busy to have kids, but I'm sure glad I found time for it.
Yep.
But yeah, so my background's real estate. I graduated with an MBA in real estate and finance and was a real estate investor. So I started investing in real estate in 2001 in Canada. And it was at the same time as I was going back to school to do my MBA. Never set out to be a full-time real estate investor. Real estate was always my plan B. I wanted to have a backup so that I didn't have to work for somebody else forever.
What was your plan A?
My plan A at the time was just go into school to get a six-figure salary.
Okay. Yep.
I had no vision of what my career was. It was all about the money.
Yep. I get it. Yep. You're in the right country for that.
I was like, I got to get that six-figure salary. That's the only reason I was doing an MBA.
Okay.
Because when I was working for a company called Kimberly-Clark, which has Kleenex and Huggies and Kotex, and it was great. I had a lot of fun, but I kept looking around, going like, I can't get to six figures very fast.
Yeah.
But everybody who was skipping had an MBA, so I said, got to go to school to get my MBA so I can get to six figures. So that is literally the only reason. Worked really hard after I graduated from MBA and got to the six-figure salary.
Awesome.
And then went, oh my God, I don't want to be here.
Oh,
Worked really hard to get somewhere I did not want to be.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I chased money.
Yeah.
I chased money, and it was exact wrong thing I could have done.
Yeah.
So this was 2008 when I said, can't do this anymore. And I had just got married to my husband that I'm with now, and said, you know what? I realized that you're a mortgage broker and it's 2008 and you're making absolutely no money because nobody is funding deals and you're on commission.
Yes.
However, I'm going to quit my job.
Okay.
I can't work here anymore.
So it's like a double whammy down the top.
Yeah, so I was the breadwinner of the household and I was saying I can't do this anymore. And he knew. I didn't even have to tell him. He knew when I was saying I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I was saying I'm not going to go find another job. I'm going to create something that we live on. This becomes from there. So we had real estate to fall back on, but of course it was 2008.
Yep.
So real estate to fall back on was not a great plan.
No.
So we moved in with my parents.
Okay, awesome. Also from Canada?
Yes,
okay.
yeah. So we moved into my parents' basement and set forth.
Total self-esteem booster? Going back to the parents?
Newlywed, and you do exactly what every newlywed dreams of doing.
Going back to the parents.
Yep, so that's what we did. But we did it so that we could, what little money was coming in, we could fund the business that we wanted to build, which was growing our real estate investment company, as well as I started a real estate training and education company.
Awesome.
Because we had been investing for 7 years at that point, and despite the market turn, we still were doing okay. So we had lots of horrible stories that gave great lessons to share with other people, and so that's really where the foundation of everything that I do today comes from. Is all of that stuff.
Yes.
My first book came out of all of that, and that first book led to what I'm doing today. Because the first book try to make a long story short.
No, please, no, you don't.
Okay.
Don't.
Okay,
it's
cool.
like, give it the whole thing. Give it the whole thing.
Okay, so the first book, I started to write. I started to build a profile in Canada, and I did it to grow our education company, but also so we could raise more money for our real estate deals. Because at some point, at the beginning, we ran out of money and needed other people's money to fund our deals. Yes. So we were buying about a house a month, so we really had to have a good flow of cash coming in from investors. And I wanted clients for my workshops and training. So I started writing for other people. I started doing media, whatever I could to get the word out. And through that, I ended up in touch with a couple different publishing companies that said, hey, have you ever thought of writing a book? I'd always wanted to write a book.
Awesome.
Since I was a little kid, I always thought I'd be a writer. But somewhere along the line, somebody told me that writers didn't make any money.
Sure.
And remember, my priority in life was money.
Yep.
So I went to business school.
Yes.
What every aspiring writer should do.
Yes. Just like, hey, I want to be the next great painter. Yeah, go to school.
Go to business school.
Because it so makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it makes so much sense.
It's perfect alignment.
Yeah.
So I started working with Wiley, and I was going back and forth, and they said that the idea that I really wanted to write, they said, no, don't write that. Nobody's going to buy that. It's too generic. Yeah. And so I said, okay. I said, what about this idea? And they said, no, we've just signed somebody to write a book just like that, so we can't do that. And they came back with another idea. And so we went back and forth for 3 months. And I thought, okay, this is my book deal, right? Like we're refining the idea at this point. Yeah. So I figured the next email was a book deal.
Yeah.
The next email was them saying, dear Julie, the marketing department doesn't think you have a strong enough platform to sell books.
Okay, so what does that mean?
That means they didn't think I could sell books.
Okay, that's really what that.
That's
really
what that
they're
means.
saying. Yeah.
That you don't have a profile. You're
Yeah.
not important enough.
Gotcha.
What you have to say isn't important enough.
Yes, your name does not carry enough leverage or weight.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they weren't just turning me down as the book idea.
Yeah.
They were turning me down. Like it was like flat out like, you suck.
Yes.
Don't bother.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't mean to laugh at it.
No, it's true.
It's true. Yeah. So that was my next question. Were they right? Like.
Well, that's what the fun part of my
Okay.
story is
Yes.
to me, anyways. So I mean, I was devastated, and it
Yes.
took me quite some time because that really was a personal rejection. It was
Yes.
just like, you aren't good enough.
Yes.
Go away. And my husband kept saying, now you can write the book that you wanted to write in the first place.
Yep.
But all I could hear was, you won't be able to sell books. You
Yeah.
won't be able to sell books. But I kept running into people who had encountered problems that I knew I could help them avoid if I just wrote that first book. Like if I just wrote that book I wanted to write. So I finally said, you know what, forget it. I'm going to write the book that I think needs to be written,
Yeah.
and I'll self-publish it and
Yep.
put it out there.
Awesome.
And so I did. And when I launched, I had a few key people that were like, this is awesome. We're so proud of you. Like, this message is great. Our clients are going to benefit. We're so excited. And so they were keen to share it. And so my book, from the author that couldn't sell books, apparently,
Yep.
my book went to #1 overall
Hell yes.
on Amazon.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so amazing. So amazing. That brings to me I have so many questions about, which I'm not going to ask right now because you're on the roll, and I want you to keep. But the fact that happened has opened so many doors for me and so many other people, I think. Okay, so you self-published because what it sounds like was you were in talks with someone who was supposed to publish on your behalf or publish for you.
Mm-hmm.
They said no.
Yeah.
And it was obviously it was a very personal. Not trauma, but it was a personal rejection that was hard.
Yeah.
Just like any dream that's attached to a passion kind of thing. And you said essentially, I'm just going to do this on my own, and you did it on your own, and actually freed you. Them saying no to you actually freed you up to do it the way you want, and it turned out better than you thought.
And now knowing what I know now, I'm so grateful they turned me down.
Yes.
Not just because of the success. That success wouldn't have happened because I would have published some crappy book that they wanted me to write,
Yes.
not the one that I really freely wrote without regard to what was going to sell. I wrote what I knew needed to be said. So that was really important. But looking back, I had friends at the time who actually got book deals, which actually made it sting even more for me at the time. Yeah. But my one friend, so this is kind of two things that happened. Besides the money, which I made boatloads more,
Sure.
like boatloads more
Awesome.
than they made,
Awesome.
because they're getting 80 cents a book and I was getting $6 a book.
Amazing.
Right? So not only did I sell more copies,
Yeah.
but I was making 6 times as much for every book sold.
Amazing.
So that's the financial difference. But the difference that I think really matters is my one friend ended up buying his book back from the publisher a few years later because the publisher was limiting what he could do with it. They own the content, right? So you put your expertise into that book.
And it's not yours.
And it's not yours to use
it's
anymore.
It's not your IP. No way.
It's theirs. So he had all these things he wanted to do to grow his brand across the country. He ended up buying it back because they were limiting.
Awesome.
So that was, one story. But the story that really made me go, whoa, was my friend wrote a real estate book just like mine, but he left the real estate industry. Okay. Wiley was like, well, you're not promoting this book anymore.
Yeah.
So they took that book, put someone else's name on it, changed the intro, and resold it.
Is that legal?
100%. They own the content.
Oh, okay.
It's morally disgusting.
Yeah, sure.
But legally, 100% within their rights.
Yes.
And the part that bothered my friend said, whatever, like, I'm not in the real estate industry anymore. I don't care that it's not great, but he didn't really care. But he had 2 co-authors that worked with him on that book that were still very much in the real estate space that did not get any credit in the second book.
No way.
Yeah, because they put somebody else's name on it completely.
That is dirty, dude.
And that's the reality of traditional publishing. And so I'm so grateful that I got into self-publishing. I'm such an advocate now. Like why have that middleman there who offers no value?
Yes.
They give you distribution, but 80% of your sales are going to come from Amazon anyways, if not more, even if you have that distribution.
Yes.
So that whole scenario is what led me to, on the side, helping all my friends and then some of our clients that were working with us as real estate coaching clients. I started helping them with their books too. Everybody just kept asking me, here's my book. Will you read it and give me input?
Yeah.
Will you give me an endorsement? Will you help me with the cover? Yeah. And so little bit by bit, I was just doing this and I loved it. But, you kind of ignore those things. It's like I was always into writing in the beginning. Sure. I ignored that. And so little bit by bit, when I was looking at, I wanted to recreate, like start a new business and come down to LA, I said, why don't I help people officially with something I've been doing on the side for 5 years? So,
awesome.
Yeah.
And listeners, I just want you to listen to the title of her first book. And I dare you to not want to run out and buy it, right? Can you just say what the full title of the book?
Yeah, More Than Cash Flow, The Real Risks and Rewards of Profitable Real Estate Investing.
Holy shit. So like I want to buy I'm going to link it's still on sale,
yeah,
right?
Of course, yeah.
I'm going to link that book once I release this episode. Because you know how podcasts work. Like, podcasting is a new world for me. It's not a new for Julie, so I'm still a noob. But I will totally link that book because the minute she told me the title, I was just like, man, I have to read and buy the fuck out of this book. So you were helping friends on the side.
Yeah.
And then it just dawned on you to turn this into a vocation.
Well, there's kind of two things. Like, people have been saying this to me for years, and I shot a bunch of YouTube videos in 2013.
She has a YouTube channel. You should check it out.
Yes, thank you. Booklaunchers.tv.
Booklaunchers.tv.
I'm trying to blow up my YouTube channel. That's kind of my thing this year.
Yeah.
So I shot a bunch of YouTube videos to help people because so many people were asking me questions, and it was not my business. But I hate saying no to people.
So people asking you questions and not your business, as in not your area of expertise?
I was a real estate investor.
I see.
I didn't have time to be helping people
all
the time with self-publishing.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, here's
it
a
wasn't
bunch
your
of
business.
videos.
You weren't making cash for the time.
Yeah,
got it.
and I had other, I had two. We had our real estate investing business, and like I said, we were buying a house a month.
Yes.
So, and I oversaw any renovations we did. So I was busy.
Yes.
And then of course I had the training and education company as well. So I had a lot going on, but I didn't want to say to people, no, I won't help you.
Yes.
So I sent them to my YouTube channel where I'd shot all these videos. But some of those videos did really, really well and just made more and more people ask me questions.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when we were coming to LA, I kind of hit the point of two decisions. One was I was now pregnant. And so I was traveling a lot, doing a lot of speaking, running a lot of workshops across Canada. And I knew I didn't want to be traveling all the time, and I didn't want to focus on continuing to grow a professional speaking business, which is what I was really kind of moving into.
You did not want to do that?
No, because I didn't want to be on the road with the child.
I see.
All the time, because it's hard as you travel all the time. So it's one thing. And the other thing was I was getting tired of coaching. I was getting tired of people that would pay me to do things, not do the thing they need to do to get results, and then get mad at me because my product or service didn't work.
I see what you mean.
And that's why I thought, I just want a service business where I can go, here, we'll do most of it for you.
I see.
Instead of saying, here's the 10 steps to do it, right? You must run into this in fitness all the time. I can't lose weight. Well, what did you eat last night? Right?
It's like total ice cream and some Oreos. What's wrong with that?
Well, you can't eat that.
Yeah.
Well, but I want to, and I will, and I'm not going to do the thing I need to do to get the result I want, which is what I was kind of growing weary of. So the combination kind of led me to go, I want to create a service business around self-publishing so that I can help people, get their message out, help people with a book, because, one book changed my life, which is something we could talk about too.
Yep.
But, one single book changed my life. My book, I've had so many people say, this has helped me in massive ways. So I want other people to help other people.
Okay.
And this is a great way to do that.
Okay, awesome. Before we get into the book that changed your life, and your current book and your current direction, Julie told me of her essential quest and journey to get to America, and it was not a smooth thing. What she just described, it's by itself would have already been fraught with just like so many things that could go wrong. But are you at liberty to?
Yeah, I can tell. I can talk about it for sure.
Yeah. Because you think I went to Canada once. It was a beautiful country, but I don't know the ins and outs of if you're a Canadian citizen and you want to come to America to become an American citizen and generate cash flow and pay taxes and blah blah blah. Like, I don't know what that looks like. But when Julie told me what happened with her and she was pregnant, I was just like, wow. I don't wish that on anybody in the midst of business transition and figuring things out. So can you speak to that experience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look back. So one thing you got to know about me is my philosophy is anything that's rough just makes a great chapter in your next book.
For sure, absolutely.
Right? So that's kind of how I approach everything. Yes. So when you know that we're going through this, that's what we just kept saying. Oh, this is going to be a great chapter in my next book.
Yes.
It was never supposed to happen all at the same time. We actually thought we'd get pregnant, have a kid, and that would be fine. And then, those things take time. It's not always instant. Sometimes when you don't want it, it's instant. But but not always instant when you want it.
Oh, the universe.
In the meantime, we decided to move to California. And so...
Why?
Oh, my husband's gotten into acting. And so it was me ultimately that pushed for it, even though he's the one that's acting, because in Vancouver, they're filming more than ever up there, but the best parts all audition out of LA. So he was getting parts, but it would be like, he'd be literally on screen for 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's really about the best you're going to do in Vancouver. You really have to come to LA to get the parts to then fly back to Vancouver to shoot.
And you were cool yourself. Like he geographically needed to be here, but you could generate income from anywhere.
Yeah, and it's even a better place for business, if you ask me.
Okay.
Canada's really laid back and chill and pretty conservative, and so this is way better environment for me, frankly. But yeah, so I just kind of said, look, like, this is not you're not starting out. You're not 20. Mm-hmm. Time's not like.
Thanks, babe.
We can't spend 20 years trying to build a career in this, which is what it would take in Vancouver for the most part, unless you got lucky. Yeah. So I said, let's just go where you're going to have the best shot. If it doesn't work, whatever. Like, it's an adventure. Okay. So that's kind of what drove this, and the decision was made. And it was like the decision was made, and like, I don't know, 5 days later, we ended up getting pregnant.
Awesome.
So we were literally telling my parents, who don't have any other grandchildren, hey, good news, you're having a grandchild. And by the way, we're moving to California.
So the fact that you got pregnant did not change the plan at all?
No, once I make a decision, it's pretty hard. I mean, there'd have to be something really dramatic, I think, but I was decided, and it was a done deal in my mind.
Awesome.
So the process, there's lots of different ways to move into the States as a Canadian. Mm-hmm. You can come in on what's called an O1, an extraordinary person's visa. And
extraordinary person's visa?
That's what it's called. It's an O1. And that's
did Canada name it that, or did America?
I'm sure the Americans named it that, but I don't know.
I love it.
If a Canadian named it, we'd probably say, slightly better than average.
I love it.
And it would probably start with, I'm sorry, I'm slightly better than average.
Epic. Friendly people, Canadians.
So I'm pretty sure that's an American name, but who knows? And so I could have come down on that because of my success of my books and my speaking and those kind of things. The lawyer felt confident that I would get it. The problem with the O1 for us was that Dave wouldn't qualify. He hadn't done enough large productions, didn't have enough famous people that would sign off saying they needed him in the States to get the same visa. And the O1 has no spouse privileges.
Okay.
So the visa we decided to go for was what's called an E2, which is an investor visa. And this is all relevant for those of you going, I don't care about this. I'm not Canadian. I'm not moving. This is very important. I'll tell you why in a sec. So the E2 is an investor visa. And basically what that means is bring cash. Okay. And the challenge for us, though, is they don't say how much. And so that's how I used my business plan for Book Launchers, which is my company, to qualify. But what I had to do is invest a bunch of money into the States without actually being physically allowed to live here to generate income. So I had to lease an office space. I had to buy some camera equipment. I had to hire some people. I had to build websites and do all this stuff.
From Canada?
From Canada.
On behalf of the United States?
In California. So I had a California corp. I had to set up a California corp. I had to come down, find space, do all this stuff.
In order to qualify for the...
In order to qualify. So I did all this, put a substantial amount of money into it. And then... this was all supposed to happen before we had the kids so we could have our son down here.
Yep.
But it took a long time, and we ended up not getting it done in time. And so we ended up having the baby. The visa got submitted, and we had to fly from Vancouver to Toronto. Okay? Now, as timing happened, we sold our house in all of this because we were moving. Yep. We sold our house, packed it up, put our stuff on the truck, and flew to Toronto the next day to get our visa. Now, our lawyer was really confident in our visa package. He's like, your concern is whether you get 1 to 5 years, right? Because they can, on the spot, one person decides whether it's 1 to 5 year visa. Mm-hmm. So that's what we had in our head was, please give us 5 years, please give us 5 years. Yeah. And that's what we were worried. So all our stuff's in the truck. We've just got our suitcase for Toronto, and then we're going to drive down to LA. Fly to Toronto. Go in for the visa interview. It's like full security. You go in like you're going to the airport, and then you stand up in this long hallway with bulletproof glass windows while everybody else is talking, and somebody's like talking to you about your visa with all the business, all the money you've spent. Like, all these questions coming through this glass window.
And everyone can hear it?
Everyone can hear.
Jesus.
No privacy. So asking me all these questions about the money I've spent. You spent this much. God. How much you're going to spend on salary, on hiring people, blah, 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 blah. So you're going through this, and then she just kind of looks at me and she goes, okay, well, you'll need your passports back. And she gets this green fluorescent piece of paper out. She circles this thing, slides it under, and I look at it, and it's a rejection.
No.
saying that I haven't invested enough money yet.
Are you serious?
Serious.
Because they didn't give you an amount.
There's no amount.
There's no amount, yeah.
And so now I still don't have an amount.
This sounds like extortion as fuck.
Okay, this is just how it works.
Yeah.
So you circle it. I'm like, so how much more do I need to invest?
Yeah.
And she just looks at me. She goes, I'm not allowed to give you an amount.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
This is dirty, dude.
And so, but she did say, but the amounts that you're planning on spending in the next 3 months would be adequate. But those amounts were assuming I was down here and I could actually hire employees and do all these things. So I walked out of there going, okay, great. And Dave's sitting there having a good old chat with, our little 4-week-old son bouncing on his knee and having a chat with people. And he's like, so how many years did we get, honey? And I'm like,
oh my God.
And I just kind of shook my head. Like, I'm like, we didn't get it. Here's our passports back. Yes.
What did he say?
Well, he didn't, it took me a while. I'm still in shock as I think of it, right? So we were walking down going, so I guess we're homeless. Oh, I forgot about another part. So I said to her, okay, what do we say when we cross the border? Because in my head, I'm thinking we're still going to go.
Yes.
And she said, you could say you have a visa pending. And I was like, well, that sounds a little sketchy. So my lawyer says, do not under any circumstances cross the border.
Yes. Good job, lawyer.
Yeah. Anyway, we're here. So long story short is that we did get our visa. I spent enough money to be welcomed with open arms into the States.
Awesome.
And here we are. But we spent 3 months living with my parents again because we had no home and no stuff. And by the time we got our stuff, my son had already grown out of that.
Yes. Jeez. See, because that rule or that law or whatever makes no sense to me. You have to invest money in order to come here, but we cannot disclose to you the amount of money. That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You do obviously know what I mean.
Oh yeah, we went through this many times. So it's done. It's the way it is. It's the most backwards way of setting up a business. I would never spend money without having spent, actually knowing revenue would come back in. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we're here, and it was an adventure. And like I said, it's another chapter in my next book, and it's going to be a good one.
Yep. Well, so what was the book that changed your life?
Well, the book itself, I think, isn't even the point. But for me, it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, yeah.
Just because it changed my way of thinking that I didn't want to have to work hard for my money for the rest of my life, which is why I got into real estate. But I just think the point is that one book gave me one thought that took me from this idea that I needed to have I needed to work for somebody else to make the money that I wanted to make. Mm-hmm. And that idea set me off on this course of investing in real estate, which without that, I would not even be in LA, because LA funded our real estate was funded. LA was funded by our real estate. There we go.
Awesome.
So that's why I say that one book, that one idea in that one book changed my life. And so you never know if there's one idea in the book that you should be writing that would change somebody's life for the better.
This is true. Yeah, it's true. I've never published a book. I would like to at some point, but I have written a crap ton of. I've been in almost a nonstop state of serial writing since I was a kid. Because I wrote in journals, I wrote in diaries, and then once the internets came out. And I became a trainer at a gym. I've been almost in a state of nonstop blogging and interviewing and writing for the last 10 years almost. But none of this stuff has been published. I'm not sure what the laws are regarding that, but I always wrote them under another person's website. So there's things like that I'm sure those details don't matter now, but they might matter at some point later on. But okay, so your current book that's out is called The New Brand You. And I remember when we talked about it, you expressed some observations on this book versus the former book. Mm-hmm. To which, when I read I haven't finished reading it, but everything that I have read up until this point it completely jives and it completely resonates with entrepreneurship in general, what I'm trying to accomplish in general. But I was wondering if you could speak to... First, just if you could give the general purpose of the book and what it's about.
Yeah, that book, for what it's worth, I actually think it's a far better book than my first book.
Okay.
It's just not as pointed. My first book is very specific, very pointed. This book is more for anybody who has to sell that's not comfortable selling.
Okay.
And the background is, of course, because as I mentioned, we were buying a house a month, so we had to raise millions and millions of dollars for these real estate deals. And I'm a high-level introvert. And my husband he's not an introvert, he's an extrovert, but he's not comfortable cold calling at all. And I think the majority of people aren't comfortable cold calling. So how do you raise all this money and do it in a way that's comfortable? And it's something that I ended up teaching all across Canada, because we became well known as people that comfortably raised money for our deals. And a lot of it came to just that personal brand. And even when I opened book launchers down here, my first 10 clients are people who knew me as a real estate expert. And they were like, oh, well, you're doing this. Well, everything you do, you work so hard to make sure it succeeds that we feel confident that you're going to, succeed at this too. And so it's that personal brand piece. And that's really what I talk about in this, is how to build that personal brand so that it sells you. And whether you're in a job or a sales role, there's things that you're doing that could be, hurting your reputation, and you might not even know it. And so I wanted to share all of that. And that's really why I wrote the book. And like I said, it's for anybody who has to sell, which is pretty much everybody.
Everybody.
But you're not comfortable with it.
The passage I read in the beginning, I think that speaks to, that would have spoke to me the most if this was like 6 months ago or a year ago. Now I think I'm beyond that now, but there's lots of friends that I have that are still stuck in, dare I say, the employee, soldier, manufacturer, perfectionistic mindset versus do shit now mindset, where it's like they want to wait for things to be perfect. And I'm sure that you've come across that a lot in your journey. I have lots of people in my circle that are very much like that. But I think the idea is essentially 1 is better than 0 and done is better than perfect. And what I like saying is that you would not have been able to, you want to release the iPhone X, but you would never release the iPhone 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so I even extending to the military, which I default go to, which I now know that you don't go to. But even there, it was, I think General Patton was like, a good plan executed violently now is better than the perfect plan executed later. And it's so true. But could you give advice to people who are still stuck there, like who are still stuck in, I don't want to do this until I'm ready, I don't want to do this until it's absolutely perfect? What would your advice be for someone if that's their mindset? You're never ready. You're never ready. Okay.
You're never ready. It's like sitting, the best analogy I ever heard, this isn't mine, I've borrowed it from somebody, is you got to go to the grocery store, you're out of food. You don't sit there and go, I got to time it so every light's going to be green. Right? You don't. You just get in the car and you deal with, there's a detour, you got to go there. Like, you just deal with what comes. So you got to know your destination. So if you don't know what you want, that's a problem. But if you know your destination, just get off your ass and go for it. Because the problems you think you're going to have aren't the problems you're actually going to encounter. You're going to encounter other problems, and you're not actually going to know what those problems are until you get out there.
That's true.
And so if you keep waiting, that perfect plan is going to be obsolete anyways, because technology is going to change, the times are going to change, the things that are going on that maybe would have mattered don't matter anymore. So just start. Like, really, just take action. My own kind of saying is the missing piece is always action. But our inspiration when we were building our first company, Revenue, was we borrowed it from Tony Horton, P90X. He always just said, keep pressing play. Just keep putting the disc in the player and hit play. So we were always just saying that to each other, just keep pressing play.
I like that.
And so a little bit every day gets massive results, but if you just sit there planning, nothing is ever going to happen.
I love it. Did you always have that mindset, or did Rich Dad Poor Dad help ignite that?
No, I've always kind of been, like I said, once I make up my mind, I kind of go for it. So I'm somebody you can count. Like, if I give you my word, if I say, yes, I will do this, I do it. Because I have this thing inside of me that makes me want to vomit if I go back on my word.
For sure.
And so, I've been like that since I was a little kid.
Good.
Really young.
Good, yeah. I mean, because I have a confession in that, sometimes I make those 1 minute, 1 take videos for Instagram. It's like how to do a squat or how to do a deadlift. I have wanted to do stuff like that since 2009. Literally 2009. Like, I've always wanted to make like how-to videos because I have lots of friends who want me to train them. But I wanted it to be, I didn't necessarily want it to be like movie quality, but I wanted it to have text, and I wanted it to have this, and I wanted it to be cut a certain way.
Right.
And I kept saying to myself, like, I want it to be this. I don't want it to just be like garage level, whatever. But as then all of a sudden it's almost 10 years later and I haven't done it. And I'm like, this is dumb. Like, I should really do it now. I'm grateful that I'm the trainer I am now versus 10 years ago. But the fact remains, I would have had better videos now if I started 10 years ago. So just like you said, I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna do this, and that was the commitment I made to myself, and that I only get one take.
Yeah.
And if I fuck up, and I actually did fuck up in very funny ways, because when you're on camera and it's recording, it takes a while for you to actually articulate what you think you want to say in your head, and what actually comes out aren't always 100% aligned.
Yeah.
You're in your head, it's like, okay, I'm going to say this because it logically leads to that. But the words that come out of your head, or the words that come out of your mouth, are just like, and so, but you have to keep going. And
can I tell you a story about that?
Sure.
So I was giving a talk, and so when I first started speaking, I used to think I had to be perfect up there, right? And I was giving this talk, and I had 2 talks to give at this event in Halifax in Canada. And I flubbed up. I totally spaced.
Yes.
And I'd done quite a few talks, and it wasn't the biggest one I'd ever done, but it was a decent sized event. And I flubbed up, totally spaced, and I was like, sorry guys, I just totally lost my train of thought.
Yes.
And then I just picked up somewhere else and just went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Afterwards, this woman came up to me and she goes, "You're an excellent speaker."
Yes.
She goes, "I actually didn't like you until you screwed up."
Really?
She goes, "I thought you were too perfect."
No way!
And then
awesome.
she said, "Then you screwed up," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I like
She's
her."
human. You know what? I have noticed that too, because it's the curse of wanting to be perfect, thinking that you have to deliver the perfect product. But the truth is, people want someone they can relate to, and I think what makes us relatable as humans, or what differentiates humans from artificial intelligence or robots, is our imperfections, not our perfections, or our awkwardness in front of an audience, or our nervousness in front of prior to a game or prior to an event.
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes so much sense. So, what is your next book?
It's going to be on self-publishing.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, but it's really, and there's so many books out there on self-publishing, but I take a different spin in that we have a mandate at our company. We actually we have a hashtag. We say "No boring books" is our hashtag.
Okay, yep.
And it's because so many of the books out there, they're all the same. They say, especially, I found this in the real estate industry because everybody wanted me to put endorsements or read their books, give them feedback, and they were all the same.
Yeah.
I was like, what makes this different? So we have kind of a mandate that we say "No boring books."
Okay.
And so this book's going to be really to help you. It's going to be really about getting a message out there that's not boring, that resonates, that helps you figure out your goal at the end. But at the end of the day, when you're writing a book, when you're speaking, when you're podcasting, even if it's about you, it's not for you.
Okay.
It's not for you. It's for the person that's listening, right? What are they going to get from this? What's in it for them? And a lot of people lose sight of that. They get too wrapped up in, this is a really fun story for me to tell.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, why am I telling it? What does that person get out of it?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the book is really kind of driving that message home, that you want to achieve your goal, but you want to achieve your goal while helping that person. And so what is it that they need to hear?
Okay.
And at the same time, entertain them, because no boring books.
No, gotcha. I love it. Makes sense. When is it going to be released?
Probably the fall, but it's not the most important thing in my life right now.
Yeah.
Building the business and my son, and of course my husband.
Yeah.
Those things take a priority over the book for me at the moment. But I'm making good progress. So
okay, so could you give some advice? I'm going to wait on that because I feel like this has to be built on something else. Could you describe your life in 2018 if you didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Where would you be now if you did not read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I'd probably have been promoted to the president of some company.
Okay.
That I was working for.
Okay.
Hard to say. I mean, you never.
Of course,
I never would have predicted I would have been here.
Yes.
Even if you asked me 3 years ago, I never would have predicted that. So,
right.
But that was the track I was on, and that was my mindset before I read the book was get to. And when I quit my job, I was the vice president of that company. Probably I would have been maybe still there. I don't know. Because I liked that kind of environment, but I would be running a company somewhere, but not my own.
Sure. You realized that you weren't necessarily happy or fulfilled before you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Okay.
It was just a book. One of my colleagues said, my daughter really enjoyed this book. And, I at the time I had invested. Had I bought a property yet? No, I was looking at property, just kind of of interest, right?
Yeah.
And my colleague said, hey, you might really like this book. And so, yeah.
Okay, so are you at all in real estate now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's how we're surviving.
Okay. So for my female listeners who are out there who are married or have families, but are stuck still in corporate jobs that they are not happy with, even though they're making lots of money. That's in my circle. That's kind of a common thing.
Yeah.
They have money, but they are not happy.
Yeah.
And they're not fulfilled spiritually. The marriage is great, you know, the kids are great, but they are frustrated because they don't have time, and they realize that that's almost antithetical to the idea of what America is supposed to be. Like, it's supposed to be the land of opportunity, and you are supposed to be able to pursue your own interests and essentially make enough money to enjoy the fruits of your labor. But they found that that's not the case. Do you have any, balancing a marriage and balancing being a mom and balancing being a killer entrepreneur, do you have any advice for them as to where to start or even how to start?
Well, it depends, because you have to want it bad enough, right? Like, so the pain, I think, has to be great enough that you want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are miserable, but they're comfortable in their misery.
Yes.
So if that's you, you're probably going to stay where you are, because at the end of the day, something has to change. And we have a lot of friends like that too. They make so much money that it's just too painful for them to, because you're going to have to cut.
Yeah.
Like, that's the bottom line. To make a change, something has to get cut.
Yeah.
And that's usually, some of your cushy little lifestyle is going to have to cut back. Like, we lived with my parents twice, right?
Yeah.
In order to make this happen. And so that was the cut that we had to make. Now, that's not necessarily what you have to do, but there's going to be something that has to be cut. And I think a lot of people try to cut with a butter knife instead of just taking that big hatchet and just going hack. And with the butter knife, like, just imagine you got to cut that hand off no matter what. So the butter knife, like, I would still be here trying to cut with that stupid butter knife.
Yeah, sure.
So you just got to hack it. And so that's the thing but you have to want it bad enough, because a lot of people their lifestyle is just so cushy that I can't, somebody cleans my house twice a week. I can't get rid of that. Or I get my my once a week meal service delivery. I'm not getting rid of that. Like, there's all these things, but you know what? You might have to clean your own toilets. You know what? You might have to cut your own vegetables for a while. I don't know what kind of lifestyle
I understand.
but you know what I'm trying to say. And so some of these things, because it's not about balance, it's really not. It's about priorities.
Okay.
And, there's times where my business is going to be my priority, and, that means my household and my son and my husband, they're not the number one that day. It's not a balance, it's priorities. And so I think you got to look at your life and go, what's most important? Now, for the action step, what I would say is think about what's your ideal day.
Okay.
Like, what do you want your ideal day to look like? And I'm not talking about like beach vacation ideal day. I'm talking like where you're productive, you're contributing to society, maybe you're making money, like whatever your ideal day is. What is that ideal day?
Yeah.
And what's one thing you can do right now to move yourself a little closer to that?
Okay.
And so, to give you another example kind of outside the box, Dave and I kind of had this conversation. This is always what we've been doing is with real estate and our businesses was, okay, what kind of lifestyle do we want to live? But he reached a point where he was like, I don't know, these deals, I'm just kind of doing them for the sake of doing them. He wasn't happy with it anymore. Yeah. And I said, well, what do you want to do? Like, and he kind of started listing all the things he could make money from. And I said, no, like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Forget about money. What would make you excited to get up in the day?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, if I was in a rock band, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he said, or maybe an actor.
Sure.
And I said, okay, well, I've heard you sing. No.
There you have it, Dave. There you have it.
He didn't even know how to play an instrument.
Okay.
And I just kind of said, well, which one's more realistic? Like,
Yeah.
really? And he said, well, being an actor. And he was actually taking acting classes when I first met him.
Awesome.
So this is something, and as a kid, he and his buddies used to film commercials and film short films. And like, this is something that was in him, and he ignored it. And he went off on the path, just like I did.
Sure.
What's practical, what's realistic, like get that career.
Yep.
So for him, it was that. And so it wasn't like, okay, full stop, switch to acting, right? It was, okay, well, what's one thing you can do? Well, I could take an acting class and see if I even like it.
Yeah.
So when I'm just saying, like, what's one thing you could do today to move you a little closer?
Okay.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I like that you went to the pain thing. And as far the action thing is important as well, because it's only truly, and I agree, like when people ask me, so for example, for my gym, like, I'm a trainer, and I'd say the last few months I've been having a challenging time, because the business model of our gym is a new person will come in, they do a certain amount of personal training sessions to get them ready and fit and competent to be in a group class and not be a liability, in that sense. And the amount of personal training sessions reflects on what their ability is, and so on and so forth. And the challenge I've been having recently is that people will do personal training with me 3 or 4 times a week for however many months. I will graduate them into group class, telling them the whole time or even from the beginning, like when you're in group class, it's not that you're going to lose me. I'll still be in contact with you, and we'll still see each other, but just not as much as before. But this is still something you have to do 2 or 3 times a week to get any benefit out of it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the people that I do graduate into the group class stay, but there's a handful of people who only show up when I set up a one-on-one with them, but they don't show up to the group class.
Right.
You know, and I've brainstormed and I've come up with all these different things. I text almost all my people all the time. I'm almost in a constant state of contact with everybody. And the best thing I can think of is that people have not associated their health or their fitness in such a way that it's a minimum standard. You know, so if you're 90 years old and you can't move, you still would want to brush your teeth and take a shower. You know what I mean? And I have, just because I've been doing this for so long, I have equated exercise with brushing my teeth and taking a shower. Like, if you don't do any of those things in 2 or 3 days, you just feel disgusting. Right? So, but that's not the case with a lot of people. People can go weeks without coming to the gym, and all of a sudden they're in pain and they don't know why, kind of thing. So, I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that they have not. I go to the mindset thing a lot as well. You know, and how people have these default minimum standards that they don't even realize that they have. And I think we all have them. So I think that's what impressed me about you in the beginning too, is that you made time for the gym. When you're in country, you make time for the gym, and you still have this business and you have a family. And that's something that's, that's really a challenge for a lot of people. And I want to hear it from from someone else, you know, for once, because. And also I know it's important that also it's from a woman who's killing it, and I like it. It's the truth is, everything you've said is not different from anything I said. But I'm a single fit male. You know what I mean? So, but I like the fact that truly it's almost as if there's no difference. I'm not married. I don't have children. Yeah. So, and a lot of the people I work with are married with children, and they still make time for the gym, and I can't even imagine that, because I think in my head, I also like that you said that it's about priorities as well. You know, like if you envision your perfect day, which is leading to what should be your ideal life, it's not that your husband and your child need all of your time; they just need some of your time. Like you don't want to prioritize them all the time. You just, there's things that you have to do, and so I think in my head, I'm picturing that. You're always in the dating phase with the husband, you're always in the child-rearing phase with the kid, and you're always in the building phase in your business all at once.
Yeah, but you're not.
But you're not.
No.
Okay.
No, because you can't be. It's not. Right. It's not possible. And if you do that, you're not going to be physically present or mentally present for all those things, right? So that's why I say it's priorities. And for me, actually, the reason why you see me at the gym on a very frequent basis, and I'm still working out to some level, even if it's just like getting an hour walk in, if I'm not able to make it. Health is my number one priority. Good. Because if I'm not healthy, I'm not there for my family. If I'm not healthy, I can't run my business. And when you're an entrepreneur, if you're sick, there's no sick pay. Right. Like, if something has to get done, you still have to drag your ass out of bed and get it done. So it makes health really, really critical. So to me, when I say health is number one, it's number one. Yes. I quit drinking almost 10 and a half years ago because it made me sick. And I'm like, why am I doing this to my body? If health is my number one priority, and I'm really honest about that, why am I drinking alcohol when it makes me feel sick? Yeah. So I just kind of looked myself in the eye one day. Actually, the truth is, I got so drunk I puked for 2 days. Yes. I had to call in sick to work. That is the truth. You want the honest truth? That is the truth. And then I kind of looked at myself. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Because I really did like shots. It was a bad combo. What kind? Any shot. Any shot. Okay. Tequila, it didn't matter. So, but that's not the point. The point was that health really is my number one priority, and so I wasn't going to do something to myself anymore that wasn't my priority. So that's really, to me, if you want to enjoy life at all, health has to be your number one priority. Awesome. Yeah, because I have another friend who's a banker, and I was telling him my frustrations as well, as far as like getting people to the gym and doing all that. And one of his things was like, fitness and health is not a priority for a successful person, because their priority is building their business or generating their revenue or blah, blah, blah. And like, I understood where he was coming from, but I still didn't buy it fully, because I know people who are successful who
who make health a priority. Now, that's different than them, say, wanting to compete in the freaking CrossFit game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So of course you're not going to opt to be competing at an elite level. You just want to stay healthy and be in tune with the human body's need to move.
Exactly.
And the need to eat veggies and meat over Oreos and Cheetos,
or Girl Guide cookies.
Or hey, this is true. Okay, I have a problem. All right, I have a problem.
7 a.m. and someone has a half-eaten Girl Guide cookie hiding in his hand while we're doing squats.
To be fair, I work out so much, and I freely admitted on my Instagram page that I got as far as I did in the open from my power and my skill, not my cardio. And I'm totally aware that there's a reason why Zeb is not the nutrition guy for the gym, even though I know to the ounce and to the block how what foods affect your hormones and what foods affect your chemical balance, and to the point of genetic expression. Even though I know all that, I'm not the person to follow. The guy Maurice Desacks, who I had you read the book from in the beginning. Excellent, successful, experienced leader of men in battle, but in his personal life, not great. Like lots of debauchery and lots of mistresses and stuff like that. So yeah, there is certainly the person and their work versus the person themselves. My vice is I love sweets.
Yeah.
That's my reputation with the staff. So whenever I go out there, it's just like, oh, what kind of chocolate cake is Zeb getting for breakfast? You know what I mean? So yeah, but because it was I would have been very impressed, and I'm still impressed, but I would have been very impressed if all it took was a face-to-face Julie looking at Julie in the mirror and be like, we're done drinking, without any intended trauma that can accompany that. You know what I mean? So yeah, and I have been completely strict and clean before, and it feels amazing. Yeah. But yeah, all it takes is a little bit. So how long have you been essentially sober? Like
10. It was July 7th of 2007. It was kind of weird that it was 777, but it was Calgary Stampede, so I know exactly.
Yes.
It was the stagette at Calgary Stampede that I had way too much fun at.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that was the last drink.
Okay. So what is your ideal day now?
Oh, I'm building it still. This is kind of like with a child, life is different now.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, my ideal day is still not quite where I think I want it.
Okay.
But, I get up and I'm pretty close for the most part. It's just figuring out the when do I work out versus the when is the quality time. And so right now I tend to wake up with my son, get to the gym after an hour with him, come home, work for a while, get home in time for dinner, and hang out with my husband and my son for a while. But now I collapse into bed exhausted at that point. Yeah. So the social life and so this is where I say, priorities and different things. The social life has really given way to these things. Okay. So the business is starting to go well, and I think I'm a pretty good mom, and I'm an okay wife. That definitely has given way too.
Yes.
Just with the amount of energy that everything else is taking. So I'd like to be a better wife. Okay. And spend more quality time with him that isn't always around our son.
Yeah.
So that's one area, and that's why I say I don't think I'm quite there. But so the ideal day would involve a little bit more time for us. But the time for us, we put him to bed. I'm like, okay, good night. Because I got to get up with my son and then go to the gym.
I can't imagine that. How old is the son now?
13 months.
Okay, awesome. The reason I'm staying here a little longer is because I just recently, I think in the last week, am helping a friend of mine with her own self-discovery and her own priorities. I think she spent a lot of time and a lot of years in service to others, and in chasing something that like you, the money was good and everything was there, but it wasn't fulfilling to her as a person. And I think only now is the world starting to open up. It's like, oh crap, I haven't made time for myself. I don't know who I am. So I've been sending her all this stuff because I do lots of self-assessment things. I'm always self-auditing. And one of the questions I asked her was, if money was no object, what would you do tomorrow, next week, next month? But the second question was, describe your perfect day, And so I kind of felt, because she wrote me back this huge long thing, and I wrote her mine, and mine was like this huge long thing, but it was important for me to include. It couldn't have all been partying and working out and eating, right? So, and there certainly was a lot of that in my perfect day, but there is a large chunk in the afternoon where there is a. In the afternoon I'm coaching CrossFit classes, and I'm also helping out this high school DVS, which is what I used to help out at, and I'm so impressed with them and their work. But I loved working with the kids and how intrepid they were and how bright they were. So certainly there was a point in the day when that was my contribution back to society. But when you said it's not just like the vacation to the beach, something, it's funny because I think my perfect day was 60. Looking at it, it was probably 60% working out, eating, hanging out with friends, and essentially partying at night, and only 30% was actually contributing back to society.
Which would get old fast. Like, I think when you're in the mindset of like always doing things that are contributing, always building value, always working for money, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think that your mindset is that you need way more of that stuff. But when you're able to kind of choose what I think most people find, and not everyone, I'm sure there are some people who can actually kick back, do nothing, and feel good about themselves. But most of us need something where they feel like they're of value.
I agree.
To others.
Yes, and you know what? It's because I know that you've put in days. Because you just told me, I know you put in days where you literally give all of yourself to business, husband, child. So it's just all this output, and there's no Julie time. You know, and I've had days where from reveille to lights out, it's just like give, and it's fine because you feel great, and it's emotionally fulfilling, and it's so gratifying. And you feel so you like there's 100%, literally 100% emotional fulfillment, and you know the social networks are amazing. People love you, you love them. It's so cool, you know. And even too much of a good thing is still too much. So if given the opportunity, the first thing you're gonna do is just like no humans, just like me alone in this desolate, beautiful place, you know. But okay, how about this? What would be do you have a projection 5 years from now what you want your life to? Okay.
No, and I was shaking my head, and the answer is no, because like I said, 3 years ago I would have never predicted this.
Yes.
And like this is phenomenal. Like by living in LA, doing what we're doing, it's phenomenal. Like it is like the greatest adventure we've ever been on. I'm so excited to be here. I love Playa Vista. Like I never thought I would love it anywhere. And people say like, what do you think of Los Angeles? And they're expecting me to complain about everything. I'm like, oh my God, it's so amazing. You know, the sun is shining almost every day. And I live in this happy place with all these friendly people. And they're like, but you're in America. I'm kidding.
How is this possible? They're all just a bunch of aggressive, gun-toting Americans.
So no, I don't actually, and I started this quite a few years ago, is I'll plan maybe a year ahead at most. Because I think that some people, not everyone, but some people can really limit themselves. And I think I was limiting myself with a 5-year plan because if I had stuck to my 5-year plan, my life would not be anywhere near as cool as my life is today.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that you're taking it day by day?
No, because I do have, I'm writing a book, I'm building a business, I have visions for what I would love my business to become. And so I have those things, but I don't call it a 5-year plan. It's just kind of a vision. And then I'm always very focused on where am I going in the next 90, even probably year, 6 months to a year. I'm always very focused on that. Because if you don't know where you're going, how do you take that next step?
Yeah. Okay. Here. I don't know if you've done a lot of like work on this, but I think just by reading this book, I feel comfortable asking you. So I used to own a gym. I used to be the co-owner of a gym, and just like any business, there were things that I was very comfortable with, and things that I was great at, and there were things that I was completely shitty at, right? And so. The direction of the gym was essentially on a downward trend, and there was a point when I had to have a hard conversation with myself and say, okay, there's where the gym could be and where it's actually going, and the difference is me, right? As the default leader and as the spiritual leader or whatever, and I was forced to confront myself, and I know in that self conversation. You have to. It's uncomfortable, and you have to dig, and you have to find the reason why. And I think a lot of people either A, have not had that conversation, or B, have had the conversation. And after having the conversation, they have to make a choice between staying comfortable, like you said, staying comfortable in their misery, or accepting the fact that that changes have to be made, and those changes will involve pain. And for myself, a lot of the changes were one of the things that I found out was that I had some very severe limiting beliefs, like subconscious limiting beliefs under the surface that everyone has these beliefs that guide them to make certain decisions. And so I had very limiting beliefs on money and business and sales and meeting new people and networking. Like I was not a fan of any of those things. I thought money was evil, and I thought business was corrupt, and I thought sales was smarmy, and I did not like meeting new people at all. I just wanted to stay. So imagine, like, if that was the leader of a business, how far would that business go? It would literally just tank. But I was very comfortable with the people that I did know, and I was very comfortable solidifying and building a network. I'm very comfortable as a lot of the people that are with me are very, very loyal to me, and I'm loyal to them. So that I was very comfortable with. I was very comfortable with the knowledge of the topics, the training. So I had to basically dig in and confront the fact that those were there. And when you do that, you don't just see your limiting beliefs in business, you see your limiting beliefs in everything. But at the time I had to just focus on that. And so now I feel comfortable in saying that none of those beliefs are there anymore. I see money as oxygen and jet fuel and potential kinetic energy. Business is the expression of a person's value add to the market and to the world at scale. Sales literally is everybody's in sales, they just don't know it, kind of thing. You're either selling me on something or I'm selling you on something. And meeting new people is the name of the game. I also study I love studying history, specifically military or warrior cultures.
With gigantic words.
Huge
vocabulary. If anything is under 4 syllables, it does not get published.
I love it.
Folks.
I love it. We're going to have to talk about that later. But, so one of them is the Hagakure. That's 4 syllables.
See, I told you.
Yeah, the Book of the Samurai. But one of the things they say is that the true way to wisdom is in consultation with others. And I didn't know what that meant at the time when I read it, which was like 20 years ago. But simply put, the more people you meet, the more you learn, and the more not only the more you learn on topics, but to see the same topic from someone else's eyes is also enlightening. And so could you speak to the limiting beliefs that separate an entrepreneur from a not entrepreneur? Like that's what I meant. Like, I'm not sure if you've done that for yourself. Like, I'm not sure if you've had to dig, because I remember when I had to have that when I had to have that conversation with myself. That was like 2015. It's like 3 years ago. So I've been working on myself for the last 3 years so that I can be the man and be the leader and be the person that is necessary. Because I had to ask myself, like, could I, the way I am now, lead this company to where it should be as I am now? And the answer was no, And so I'm either going to stay the same and die the honorable death, or change, or adapt adapt to what needs to be done and be that person and be that man and lead. And that was all out of necessity. I think I learned those lessons too late at the time with my then partners, which is, like, for better or worse, that's what happens. It's like the guy who messes up so hard in a relationship and he says he's sorry and he actually does learn the lesson, but it's too late. Like, the damage has been done, so he can only apply those lessons to the next girl. So I feel like that's what happened. But I think that you have gone through more. It sounds like you have gone through more endeavors and more ventures and just simply more awesome, like, life stuff. Could you delineate the mindset or the subconscious beliefs that separates the entrepreneur from the not entrepreneur?
It's tough because I think there's different people that can fall into either category for different reasons, and there's different limiting beliefs that will impact everybody. I think everybody has limiting beliefs.
Yes.
It's just a matter of, some people have a fear of success, some people have a fear of failure, right? And it's kind of knowing where you fall and what's holding you back.
Yeah.
And kind of getting familiar with it. And I can more speak to what's held me back.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
Versus general things. And one thing I can tell you, though, is entrepreneurs will aren't afraid to fail, and they're also not afraid to take action, right? You kind of have to do both, right?
Yes.
You have to take action, and you have to quickly learn from what happens and adjust.
Yes.
Because you're going to make a mess of things, and if you don't, you're not going to grow.
Yes.
So that's really important. So that's one factor, that if somebody is a successful entrepreneur, well, they ventured out in the first place. So you know they took risks.
I love it.
And they took action. So that's critical. You're not going to succeed if you don't do that.
I love it.
But for me, the big thing, and I did a lot of work. I ended up not even realizing I needed to work on myself. I kind of went to help a friend who was starting these kind of workshops, and ended up finding out that I was like a hot mess and needed all this work.
Wait, how?
So my friend he was in real estate, but he wanted to get into personal growth.
Okay.
And he actually has a phenomenal gift of kind of just seeing you like for all your flaws and, all the good and all the flaws, and kind of knowing the questions to ask to help you see it for yourself.
Okay.
So he's got a real gift.
Awesome.
But he wanted to get into this space as a real estate investor. So he kind of said, hey, I'm going to have this 1-day workshop. Will you come out to it? And I checked it out, and I kind of was like, I didn't know. I thought it was like a business event, right?
Yeah.
No.
Ooh, he unwittingly.
Without even knowing it. And then he did another thing. He said, I'm going to have this couples retreat. It's going to be my first one. I hope couples show up. So my husband and I were like, yeah, we'll come. Like thinking it's going to be a weekend away from real estate. And it was like, I bawled for 2 days basically. But what I learned in that was interesting. Because I found out that we were probably going to end up getting divorced because I was starting to resent Dave because what I was doing, and this is the same thing, was impacting my business. And by the way, the same things that impact you in your personal life impact your business. Like, it's guaranteed. Like, you think you're a separate person, but you're not Batman, right? You're not one person by day and another person by night. You're the same person.
I'm going to ask you to elaborate on that later, but okay, go ahead.
So what I found out was that I was doing a lot of things to make people like me. Like, I was deathly afraid, and it all rooted back to my childhood, where I skipped a grade. I went from grade 2 to grade 3 and, skipped, but it was in a small town, and so everybody was
which grade did you skip?
I skipped grade 2. I had 6 weeks of grade 2.
So you went from grade 1 to grade 3?
No, I had 6 weeks of grade 2, and then they bumped me into grade 3.
I see, okay.
And so, I was in a small town, and I didn't fit in because I was that kid that was supposed to be in grade 2 that was now in grade 3, and it's a long story, but that's the essence of it. And so from that day forward, it took me a long time to actually get friends and fit in and all these kind of things. So I had this like deep rooted, like, nobody's gonna like me feeling. So I would do all these things so people would like me, including like saying yes to my husband to like, oh yes, let's go buy that condo, even though it was the last thing I wanted to do. And let me learn how to mountain bike when all these things, right? Yeah. And I didn't realize it, but I was like starting to resent him. Yeah. But it was nothing he'd done wrong.
No, of course. Yeah.
It was just me trying to please everybody, but now I was secretly getting mad.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's the same thing in business. I made choices in business because I wanted my clients to like me. Because I did, when I stood on stage, I would sugarcoat what I really believed because I didn't want people to say, oh, you're wrong.
Right.
And all these things, it was all there, and it all came back to the fear of not being liked.
I see.
And it's still there. I don't think you ever get rid of these fears, but I'm so much more comfortable with who I am now because I did that work.
Sure.
And I think my business benefits tremendously, my relationships benefit. Not initially. I mean, imagine the whole talk where it's like, that thing I said I like to do. No, I hate that. I freaking hate that. And that thing we bought. No, I don't want that. It was not a good conversation.
Oh my gosh.
But so that was really what held me back in so many ways. And I think writing my first book started me down the path of sharing what I really believed, because there's a lot of stuff in there that I'd actually never told anybody, that I thought this about the industry, that we'd done this. We always kind of hid some of our mistakes, and I never wanted to say, oh God, I screwed that up royally, because I didn't want somebody to think I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. So that was all kind of there, and that's my big limit and what I learned about myself.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because I have a confession too, in that I thought that you can completely make them go away, but so for example, I am comfortable going up to a person like cold and just introducing myself, but it's still like way back there. It's still in the back of my head. There's still this there's this hesitation. Mm-hmm. The only reason that it doesn't manifest so strongly on the outside is because I've literally done it thousands of times. There's no way I feel like there's no way around the fact that you have to take not just action, but you have to take massive action to replace I think I read somewhere that you don't just get to get rid of a limiting belief and in its place is a vacuum. Like there is not, that you have to replace it with some other belief. And so I've had to constantly tell myself the way you grow and the way you learn is through consultation with others and with meeting new people. You have no idea what this person knows and what they've been through and how they can help you in your life and how you can help them in your life. This could turn out to be something really great. And you're going to project this imagined terrible reality onto this person who could potentially be super cool, all before you even introduce yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And like this kind of crazy social anxiety, I guess. And I think I'm not jealous, but I have friends who that comes so easily to them. But also on the flip side, I have friends who are very comfortable meeting new people. But once they have met the new person, then they don't know what to do after that. Like they don't know how to close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I am very comfortable with. But the actual opening of it is just like, okay. So you said something. How much time do you have left?
I just have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Let's take a break. Coming back.
I was like,
You just broke my heart because Batman's probably my favorite character, and I've always wanted to be Batman. Now that I know that that's not the case.
There's only one Batman.
Well,
yes. Actually, there's a whole bunch of
There's only one Bruce Wayne. Yes, I do keep up with the comics.
Yeah.
I'm a huge nerd. So can you elaborate on that more? What do you mean by what affects you in your personal life affects you in your business life?
Yeah, I mean, it's those things that are impacting. Some people think and this is what I learned when I went to the quote unquote business training.
Yes.
And it turned out that it was business training. It benefited my business tremendously to look at myself. So the only real reason that is a benefit is because you're not a different person. Okay. That person that rolls into work that is looking to be liked, at home, still is looking to be liked at work. And that person who leaves work looking to be liked still is looking to be liked at home. And just because your money is directly applicable to your job doesn't mean it's not going to be what you fight about, right? Like think about, so just using money as an example.
Please.
So money, you're going to work for money, but that if you're driven for money, then that's going to impact your personal life too.
I see.
Right? Like it's because you're not turning a switch off.
Sure.
You're still you.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people go to work and actually put on a mask and pretend to be somebody else to go to work because they think they have to be something at work that's different than home.
Yeah.
But that's just going to impact you over the long run because you're pretending.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, it's the same person putting on the suit to go to work or whatever it is, your workout clothes in your case, as the person who goes home and sits on the couch. And so I think it doesn't matter, who you are, what you do in the day, you are you.
Yes.
And so your limiting beliefs are impacting your relationships, whether it's a work relationship or a home relationship.
Okay, I see now. I think I was just coming from the other side in that I saw money as evil, and it just simply from the law of that which is not important to you, you will push away or you will not attract. And so I can see in the sense that if money is important to a person, they will attract it, but also absent any kind of value add or moral code, then it's just going to be that. Whereas I was like when I was a coach at this other gym, I was approached by 13 investors for me to be their guy, their like CrossFit guy. But because I didn't care about it. Not only did I not care about it, I saw it as bad. Like I truly in my heart saw it as bad. I wanted nothing to do with it. And I think the most dramatic analogy I heard about that was raise your hand if you were married or raise your hand if you have a girlfriend or a husband. Now look at them every morning when you wake up and be like, you know what, babe, you're not that important to me. Like I don't really like you, and see how long they last. And so the message was, if something is not important to you, you will not attract it. But if something is important to you, then you will attract it. And so I think that like now I do recognize it as so crucial and so important, but also not the be all end all. And I'd say too, like my latest paradigm shift has been trying to think long term versus short term. And I know that I've covered that in other podcasts, and we just because of time I won't get into it. But another thing I wanted to touch on is relationships, and what I mean is I thought my podcast would be so much about fitness and health and whatever, but literally like I don't think I've ever talked about that on any of my episodes. It's all been like economics and entrepreneurship and philosophy and relationships and marriage and the relationship between man and woman or masculine and feminine. And so I just officiated my 5th wedding 2 weekends ago. With all of my weddings have been CrossFit clients, and I think that's such a huge honor and kind of strange to me because I myself am not I'm not married, but I wanted to ask you about that because it's you met your now husband in Canada. And I just want to go there because it's like I love hearing. I think I love hearing the stories. How did you guys meet?
We actually disagree about how we met.
Oh.
I think we met at
lots of,
volleyball. No, well, there was. Oh, of course, there was drinking involved.
Yes.
But initially, he said we were introduced at Gold's Gym, which is where we worked out at the time. Mm-hmm. But I actually thought we met at a beach volleyball game, so I didn't remember meeting him at the gym.
Wow.
Apparently. So anyway, but yeah, it was all through mutual friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were they purposely? Was it by your mutual friends' design that you guys met? Like, did they?
No. It was just like everybody hung out as a group.
Okay.
And that was really, it was like the gym group, kind of like CrossFit, right? Like it's almost like CrossFit, but it was the Gold's Gym group, and they used to do things like beach volleyball and all these kind of things on the weekend and parties and stuff like that. And so it was just they kind of welcomed me into that group, and so I was meeting him through that group. That's all. Yeah.
So when you guys met, was it like right away or?
When we started drinking, it was, yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So when did you know that it was it was actually a serious thing and not just a...
Pretty quick, yeah. Okay. And we hid it. We actually kept it a secret from the group because we didn't want to screw up group dynamics.
I understand.
So for, I don't know, probably 3 months, we kept it hidden from the group. But so it was even before we told the group that I remember a conversation with my mom, and she's like, this guy's different, isn't he? And I started to cry, and I was like, yeah, and I was scared because I had all these plans for my life, right? I didn't intend on having a relationship at that point. I was in the middle of applying for MBA schools, which were going to move me all over the country, which thankfully he followed me. Oh. But so that's kind of the moment my mom triggered it. It was like, this is different. I was like, I'm going to screwing everything up. But
okay. So can you go back to so you were applying to MBA schools. You moved from where to where?
We were in Victoria, BC, which is on Vancouver Island.
Okay.
And I applied to schools all across the country, but my favorite were all in the East Coast. Okay. So Toronto, Montreal, those kind of cities. And the one I ended up accepting and going to was in Toronto.
Okay, and that's on the East Coast?
It's in east, not coast, but eastern side of Canada.
Eastern side, okay. Yeah. And then you got accepted there, and he followed you. Mm-hmm. You guys were already...
Yeah, we were together. We weren't living together, so that was a whole nother adventure, was moving across the country together and then moving in together, and me quitting a job, starting school. So it was like a bazillion life changes all at once. But that all happened. Yeah.
How long were you guys together before you got married?
A little over a year. Before we got married? Oh gosh, no. I didn't want to get married ever.
Ever? Wow.
It just wasn't on my list of things.
I understand.
2008 was when we got married. We met in 2000.
Okay, that's a good thing. So another thing I asked too is, when did you know it was him? Like, when did you know he was the guy? Because the pattern I've noticed with all my friends was usually the guy knows that she's the girl before the girl knows that he's the guy.
I don't know. You'd have to ask him part of it, but I don't know. I was always.
But you are married now, so you were essentially, he had to sell you on the idea that marrying was a good idea, and marrying him was a good idea.
I don't know if he sold me so much as eventually I just was like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So many other things have happened that I haven't really given that much thought. Like, there's so many. So honestly, I'd have to sit and think about it, because I haven't really thought about it. He was my partner for life. I knew that, and I guess I figured. I didn't think marriage would change anything, but I'm glad we got married. Okay, because that is probably I cannot contain my shock at the fact that you don't remember. It's not that you don't remember, but you would have to sit back and think about it. But that you will have to admit that that's a drastic difference between not wanting to get married at all because it wasn't part of your plan, and now you are married with a kid. Yeah, something had to have happened. Mentally. There's also been that was 2000, it's 2018.
Right, so 18 years.
This is, I'm not 25.
Sure. No, yes, I love it. No, but we just sat here and we said that everyone is in sales. Everyone is selling somebody on something. Yeah. So that's why I said, you were coming from a place of not only is marriage not on my radar, I don't want to get married ever.
Yeah.
That is a different thing. So here comes this dude who is sent, like, for lack of a better term, just proves you wrong and rocks your world in a way that you weren't expecting, right? And so much so that you were emotional when you were talking about it with your mom. And like your mom knew. Yeah. Like your mom knew that it was a different thing. Yeah. And so that's where I wanted to like ask about that, because just simply put, I like hearing the stories. I'm an officiant. Like I'm a sucker for these things, but like
you'll have to ask him. Okay. I think that'd be a better question for him. I'm very much, that's just not where my brain goes.
I understand.
Yeah.
Because didn't you say you're like a high level introvert or something?
I'm high introvert. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 9.
Wow.
Maybe an 8.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know that introverts like spend a lot of time alone, like, in their own heads.
Yeah.
But so in Julie's world, it's literally just business, husband, kid. This is just where I'm at now. Yeah. Okay. Not like there's not a lot of reminiscing, or there's not a lot of.
There's not time for that kind of stuff right now. And I think probably at some point I may have done it, but again, this was never just not something I put my focus into. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thrilled with how it's turned out. I love him to bits. Yep. But yeah, I can't really go back and like dig into. I'm not a deep romantic, I guess. Okay. I'm very practical.
I love it. What's his name?
Dave.
This marriage makes sense economically. I'm a practical person.
That's not the case either.
Money on taxes. I love it.
In Canada, you don't get the same benefit. But anyways.
Okay. Yes. But you are happy you got married.
I'm thrilled.
Awesome.
And I'm thrilled we had a kid too, which we at one point said we were never going to have kids. Yeah. So, like I said, don't make 5-year plans because you never know,
That's
right?
True. Yeah, this is
Leave
true.
yourself open to possibility.
Fair enough. So remember when I said, because I know we have like, it's 4:50 now, we have like 10 minutes or 5 minutes just to get all this stuff. When I had to have the talk with myself, like I accepted that, okay, I'm going to embrace the changes that need to be made. I'm going to accept the pain and do it. I did it like late, but I did it. One of the things that actually helped me realize it was the movie The Wolf of Wall Street. Oh yeah. And so when I watched the movie, even though it was a very fun movie and very entertaining, I did not see the lewds and the hookers and stuff. I actually saw his ability to sell. And more than that, I saw his ability to teach others to sell. And so I actually looked him up, and I watched a bunch of his stuff, and it made so much sense to me. So one of his interviews, they asked him, what are your 3 like values? What are your 3 personal core values? And he was like, during the Wolf of Wall Street time, money, power, sex, like those sorts of things. But then now they asked him, what it is now is giving, family, freedom. And I thought it was great. So, can I ask what are Julie's 3 personal values?
Yeah, I mean, I've already touched on the number 1.
Sure.
It's health.
Yeah, health, yep.
I think because nothing else, you can't enjoy everything else if you're not healthy.
No, of course.
That's one. Freedom, which has driven everything I've done from the day I started investing in real estate. It was because I wanted options. Yep. And then for me, it's I guess family would probably be the best way to put it. Okay. It's those key relationships in my life. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because mine are vitality, which is the umbrella of physical fitness and culture, honor and freedom. And if I had to tack on a 4th, it would probably be obsession. But I talk about that in other podcasts as well. But great, this has been awesome. I'm so thankful for this. Would you do this again?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Thank you, Julie, for being on the podcast. If people wanted to contact you, could you give like what's the best way, like an email or
sign up for Spry? I'll see you every
sign
morning
up for Spry.
at 7.
Awesome, thank you, Julie, selling my gym for me.
I know. I mean, truly, like that is one great way to connect. That's where I've made a lot of my friends over the years, not just at Spry, but CrossFit. Yes. It's been a big part of my health and well-being is the relationships and social support. But booklaunchers.com is the best way to connect with me.
Okay, and that's a website?
That's a website. It's got all the connects to my YouTube and my social media and all that.
Okay. Yeah. Are you on Instagram? Mm-hmm. What is your tag?
I don't know. Okay. My name probably, awesome. Julie Broad. I'm not sure. That's why I say go to booklaunchers.com. It's all there.
That's where it is. Okay. Is there an email or that booklaunchers.com?
It's all there. It's nice and simple. Go there.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, Julie.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.